Today's guest is Jake Gilbertson, better known as JakeG TV. He's a content creator, author, health coach, and the creator of JakeG TV News, an AI-driven satirical news channel that's exploded online for pushing narratives the mainstream media refuses to touch. Jake's built his platform by covering stories most creators avoid completely, from Zionism and censorship to the Maui fires, corruption, cult activity, and hidden influence networks. He's been making YouTube videos since he was a kid, exposing satanic cults and controversial topics long before it was popular to do so. Love him or hate him, he's built a reputation for saying the thing everyone else is too afraid to say. Ladies and gentlemen, JakeG TV.
Welcome to Inside with Sam. I'm your host, Sam Sankar, and this is my co-host, Erick Warsaw. Today, he's sitting across from me, but I have JakeG TV.
What's going on, guys?
Jake, thank you so much for coming out, man.
Thank you guys for having me.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've been watching Eric for, years, and then Sam, you just came on my radar.
Thank you, man.
Had me out here. It's been an amazing experience out here in New York. Happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. We had a great time last night, too, going to New York City, showing him around. You know, we had a few talks, and yeah, man, it's good to have you here, man. It's a lot to talk about, lot to cover.
Tons.
Yes, yesterday we went to Little Palestine.
Right.
Patterson, and we had a good time, you know?
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, we're in a big war right now against a foreign country that is a domestic terrorist here in our land. And seeing these people in Little Palestine and seeing what they have been up against, it's like we have to speak up because it's a serious issue.
I agree. It's a very serious issue, and I feel like, but today, when Eric started years ago, there wasn't a lot of people speaking up. A lot of people were scared. Today, I feel like people are speaking up more. People are more open about it. Is that right, Eric? You agree?
It took a first round of people to break the ice and break the taboos, because people were afraid. I mean, it's like a social thing we do. There's certain things that people are scared to talk about. It's something that naturally forms in society, like, group psychology. And people broke down the taboos, made it so we could talk about these things. And here we are today with the Great Awakening. And thank God for social media. Without social media, we'd still be trapped in the brainwash. Right.
And you'd think that we would have woken up by 9/11, but with everything that's happened, like the pandemic, so many people, I think it was like 85% of people have actually took that mRNA vaccine, that poison. And now people are starting to realize all of these pharmaceuticals, these vaccines, whether it's Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, they all turned out to be like blacklisted. And now these people who were so compliant are now realizing the more compliant you are, the more you're going to be messed with. And then you see who owns these pharmaceutical companies, and then this genocide that we've been witnessing in real time. It's part of this thing where they're trying their hardest to suppress us, and all it's doing is just waking us up even more.
All the big pharma is run by a certain group of people, and then you got BlackRock behind the scenes further influencing it under Larry Fink. Yep. It's amazing their control over every aspect of our economy, too.
Absolutely. And that goes to our music industry, whether it's Hollywood. There's 6 companies that own 90% of our media. And that's Comcast, that's Warner, that's Sony. And you see with these music artists like Kanye West, and you see that they've got these handlers. They all go a little bit crazy. It's like the CIA, that's what's interesting is right now the MK Ultra files, along with the JFK files, were just on Tulsi Gabbard's desk. And who ended up taking those out? The CIA. They came to their desk and said, sorry, I know the president just signed this bill that was supposed to allow all of this stuff to come out. Well, guess what? It's fake and gay, and it's not going to come out. And that's just how they do it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Were you always, awake with the whole, Zionism and all that stuff? Did you always notice it from years ago, or was there something that said, okay, there's something going on now? Let me dig in a little more.
Well, that's a good question. It's just like I knew that there was some type of secret group of people who were running these industries, whether it was Hollywood. And like I said, with the music industry, I knew about Illuminati when I was like 14 years old.
Yeah, we all did.
And I remember my mom was like, oh, you and your brother are always talking about this Illuminati and New World Order thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that it was a J World Order. And, the more you start to realize, well, who are these people? They're not just whites. And, when I went to college, it was like, that's who they were pinning it on. And everybody was just accepting this. So in university, that's what they teach you, is that white people are the problem. Being masculine is an issue. And I intrinsically knew that there was something wrong and that these people were trying to subvert us in many different ways, but I couldn't pin it down to a certain person. I just knew, or certain type of people. I just knew that it was satanic. I knew that it was anti-human, but I couldn't fully identify it. Because you could see, like, Bill Gates, he was owning up all the farmland. And, that they were pushing this climate change, this virtue signaling, and people were falling for it. But I could always feel that there was something wrong with the virtue signaling, that it was leading to something that was actually anti-human. They were anti-carbon. They were telling us that your carbon emissions are the problem. You as a human, you breathing, cows farting, this is the issue. And it's like they're anti-life. So, it started way back in the day. I mean, you see the TED Talk with Bill Gates, and he's talking about how can we get the world's population down by 10 to 15% from 6.8 billion or whatever it was at the time. He was like, we're going to do that through vaccines. So it was like, I knew, especially when the pandemic hit, that the people who are pushing this, the elites that are telling us what to do, have an anti-human agenda, and they want less of us. And I knew that they wanted to control us. They wanted to control what's in our farms. And, so it didn't start with the Jays. It started with saying, okay, what's going on with Monsanto? Why is 90% of our grocery store filled with corn, soy, and wheat? And all of this is filled with pesticides. And why is everybody acting so gay? And why is everybody just not willing to speak up? And me, as a person who's just like naturally a masculine man, I just am being myself. I'm being white. I'm actually half Scandinavian, half Chinese. But I could tell that when I was in like my classes, whether it was like my social equality class, that our teacher, she was trying to push all of this like, oh, white people are the issue. And like more than half of the women in that class had like shaved heads. And they would look at me and just be like, that guy's the problem. He's the issue. He's the type of person who's pushing the wage gap. And that's why women are disempowered. And I could just feel it was like people were pushing you to be more like, oh, be more tolerant. They want to push tolerance. And I could feel that before I could identify who's pushing it. So there was always an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
And the most intolerant people are usually the ones who cry tolerance the most. I mean, they're the ones who are the real intolerant people. And 100% right on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When we got to know you for a few days hanging out with you, you mentioned that you wanted to be a rapper and you were a YouTuber. Tell us a little about that. That's pretty interesting, man. We were kicking it. And you were telling me about you rapping.
Well,
maybe you could spit a couple of rhymes for us.
Okay,
right
I'll spit a couple bars. Cool. No, when I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a director. I wanted to make films, and so I had a MacBook, and I just naturally got really good at editing. Everybody in my middle school knew I was the videographer guy. Like if we had some type of project where we needed to make a video, I would just make it funny, add all this music.
You were the editor.
Yeah, and then my cousin and I, we made this like silly lip syncing video when I was on a road trip. Yeah. And it ended up getting 1.4 million views. That's
big.
Yeah, when I was like a little kid. So I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to be this, this big YouTuber guy. And so when I turned like 13, maybe 14 years old, I was like, oh, I've got this little following. I started wanting to do like vlogs. And I even did these skits where I'd go around my town and asking people like, oh, what's your main goal in life? Like, what do you want to do? And so I was just naturally interested in people. And I like to entertain and have fun. But yeah, then I got into music and started, doing R&B and rap. And I worked with different artists and stuff like that, did filming for them. They taught me like how to have a good vocal studio. So I invested in like a preamplifier, started producing beats. And from there, I started making music. And I really wanted to be an artist really bad. But I also was noticing all of these things in the music industry. And I didn't want it to be like a cope, like, oh, my music's not good enough, so it's not getting in there. But you do realize that, like, all of these major artists, they're all using symbols, like putting this over their eye, covering their eyes, doing these weird, like, symbols. And I remember thinking, like, are these people cloned or something? Like, why do they randomly glitch out? Like, have you ever seen that? Like, where Nicki Minaj, all of a sudden, she does this weird, like, face, or like Katy Perry starts, like, twitching or something like that. I was like, okay, why are all the major artists, like, acting weird? So that got me in this rabbit hole of trying to learn, okay, well, what is MK Ultra? And then you hear that they use, like, LSD to fragment people's personalities. And you could just feel that there was, like, gatekeepers behind it. And so I looked into a little bit of, like, Lucian Grange. He's the guy who owns Universal. And he happened to be working with all of these big bankers in Africa. And he has big connections with BlackRock and Vanguard. And so, I really noticed that there was a controlled industry before I identified the J's.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted to start, let me go, after you saying that right there, I wanted to go right into the music industry gatekeeping. Because a lot of it is not just like based on talent, but people who meet certain criteria, whether actors, I mean, besides just being Jewish, they got to either humble themselves to that group of people. And but the music industry gatekeeping in general.
Right. Like, what about it? Like how they basically
like
push
how
people to be degenerate and like to push sexual degeneracy, and they want people to be out in the streets killing each other, that type of stuff. Yeah, well, I mean, like, you look at Tupac, and he was talking about, he made an album called Killuminati, and so he was talking about the Illuminati and talking about this, like, control, and you see, like, Def Jam Records, they were, all these people were just, like, randomly dying and killing each other off, like, and there is this one, have you ever heard of the 27 Club?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where it's, like, all of these artists, they die at 27 years old. Like Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, Janis Joplin. They all just happen to die at 27. It's almost like you see these people trying to break out of their contracts. It's kind of like with Miley Cyrus, when she was Hannah Montana, and then all of a sudden she just got all sexual and weird. Well, what I inferred from that was, okay, well, she's under these contracts for like Disney and all these different contractors. And in order to get out of her contract, at least this is how I saw it, was that she needs to be so degenerate and go so crazy that these labels will want to take her off of it. And you do learn that, like, their first and last name then gets, like, put into their contracts. So it's like their name is owned by these contract lords who all happen to be Jays.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kurt Cobain, do you think he killed himself?
I think we'd have to go into the entire case, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah. Maybe he was,
Who knows? But the
maybe
whole
he was
27,
suicidal.
the whole 27, that's...
Right. But here's the thing is you can't take everything at face value, because you're going to hear like, oh, he was a drug addict, or he was into these things. But it's like, we don't really know what they're going through, or what type of blackmail they have on these people that have them stay within their contracts. And so that led me to believe, okay, maybe these people are doing some weird backdoor deals where they have to get, like, they have to give it up. You know what I'm saying? They have to do something on camera, and we know that's kind of what Diddy is. He's like the Epstein.
Oh yeah.
The Epstein of the music industry.
Definitely a mini Epstein.
Have all these people come to these parties, have cameras everywhere, drug these people, and put them in compromising situations. And who knows? Maybe it's just like they want to please these artists, and so it's like they do what they say, and then next thing you know, they're in these compromised situations where it's like, hey, by the way, what we did last night, that was filmed. And so if you ever want to get out of this contract, we're going to let that out to the public.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to have to do what we say.
I believe it.
And that's kind of what the Jays are good at. Blackmail.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing this ever since J. Edgar Hoover, back in the day when our FBI was blackmailed and he was going to all these weird gay sex parties. So have you heard much about that?
Yes, that's exactly what happened, and with J. Edgar Hoover. And they say that his denial of the existence of the Italian mob and everything like that is because they had information. They were actually blackmailing the head of the FBI to keep themselves protected because they knew.
Exactly.
And as far as Puff Daddy, his behavior and tactics was kind of professional, and it does mimic exactly what an intelligence agency does.
Right.
And because of who he was dealing with and everything too, a lot of things point to Israel. Mm-hmm. So Puff Daddy is a very, very interesting case, and really it should be talked about more.
Yeah, and at the same time that he was being blackmailed, they were sending all these weapons over to Palestine. You know, they were trying to set it up, and that was like pre-1948. So it was like they've been doing this since before 1948, and that's when, boom, Israel was created in that exact year.
1948.
And it's like within those 2 years, like +1, +2, that's when CIA was created. That's when Mossad was created. And so CIA has used all these same tactics that Mossad uses in order to keep people under control. And we're all starting to wake up because look what's going on in the Epstein files. Why are all these politicians into doing these dark things with kids? And it's disgusting. It's sickening. But what's a better way to keep somebody in your control than having some type of compromising situation?
Yeah.
You know,
Dirt on
it's
them.
like we both have done dirt together.
Yeah.
You better not let it out. And that's what we see with all of these politicians. They're all controlled. They're all into this.
All
It's
blackmailed.
disgusting.
Yeah.
And with the Epstein list, what's crazy is the sick stuff that was able to come out. You got to imagine that there's worse stuff that was never able to come out.
100%.
So if the stuff that did come out is this bad, we can't even imagine what they're hiding.
Right. Yeah. And that's what happens when you control the media too. Is look at what happened with Epstein. He says, as you know, I work for the Rothschilds. So it's like, you know, and then when you look into what did the Rothschilds do, and they were the banking industry back in Germany. You know, they were using the so-called Star of David, which is, I believe, is the Star of Remphan. I believe that it's the tabernacle of Moloch, and these people do child sacrifice, and they use this symbol. They'll tell you it's the Seal of Solomon, but really it's just like it's a symbol for their entire group of control. And so that's what you'd see out there is the bankers out there. They would have a big Star of David sign, and that's how you knew, okay, these are the people that you get your loans from. And what did the Rothschilds do? They figured out that instead of giving out loans to, you know, just like small families, they figured that they can give loans to countries and governments. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, it's backed by the taxpayer dollars. And so, you know, when the painter was rising in power, these people decided that they were going to send all of their sons into all the different countries, whether that was Vienna, Paris, the UK, and they controlled their media and they controlled their banks because the banks control the media. And what they did was they told, like in Britain, they said, they told them that, hey, you guys just lost the war. And so everybody sold their assets, and then and they had won the war. And so they told everybody, sell your assets. But then afterwards, they decided to tell them, just kidding, we won. And then they sold all of their assets back to the bankers at a premium. And so this is how the Rothschilds came to power. They own all of the banks. And so there's this one group, you know who owns 70% of global assets. And right now, as I said earlier, they own 6 companies own 90% of our media. Like that is a level of control that most people can't even fathom. It's like one of those things that it's so big that it's like there's no way that anything is this sinister. We live in capitalism. It's a free market. But the truth is, the more you look into it, it's like, well, we were just talking about this earlier. Is like we do have a sense of socialism here. We do have like a bit of a welfare state, where it's like, we're giving Section 8 housing. Like that's not capitalism.
It's a mixed economy.
It's a mixed economy. Yeah, so it's, when people talk about free markets, well, we're not talking about a Jewish oligarchy that's going to own everything. And so that's what we're living in. And there's a supremacist mindset with these groups of people who at least appropriate the Jewish people, not even saying that that's who they are, but they're the ones who hide behind Freemasonry and, like we were talking about with the music industry, the Illuminati. And if you look into who the Illuminati was, I believe it was in the 1770s, it was the Bavarian Illuminati. That's when they were created. And if you Google this or look into Grok, they'll tell you that they disbanded within like the 10 years of creation. But the truth is, well, we still see that they have tropes that are now still working into our media and all of our different industries that are pushed to us. Yeah. Which is promoting degeneracy. These people own the porn industry. They own everything. Everything that's disgusting and bad with our society. Yeah. That's what these people are promoting. And it's like, what is a human who is good for society? Who you are is what your work is. What do you contribute to society? Every single person contributes a certain thing to society, whether that's truth or building construction or working the mines or, whatever your job is, that's what you contribute to society. Well, when you see that there's this group of people, like in the Epstein files, that are talking about we get rich by letting the Goyim deal in the real world while we just get rich off of betting on shipping futures. So it's like, and then pushing us into endless wars and knowing what they're going to push us into, so they can predict the market, they can change the market, and they can bet on what's going to happen because they're the ones creating it. These are the same people who are bombing the infrastructure of the Middle East. They've been doing this for hundreds of years because any country that doesn't have a centralized banking system, they're going to take them out, and they're not going to let anybody else come to power. That's what happens when you own 70% of global assets.
Control,
yeah. Total control, blackmail, all that. Speaking
of control,
yeah.
Yesterday at the festival, the Palestinian festival we were at, that was very interesting. If you noticed, obviously, we spoke about this.
Yeah.
You were interviewing a rabbi. We're not going to name any names, but you were interviewing a rabbi, and I was your cameraman for like 30 minutes.
Right.
And you asked him some crazy,
Hope your arm's okay.
My arm is good. You asked him some crazy questions, right? Very intense questions, serious questions.
Serious questions that everybody deserves answers to.
Right. And just share that with us. What happened from yesterday and today?
Right. So there are these rabbis that are in the within the Palestine movement, and they push free Palestine. And they're anti-Zionist, but they are rabbis, and they do believe in Judaism, which the Talmud says that our beloved Jesus Christ is burning in human feces and excrement for all of eternity.
That's right.
While also saying that the Virgin Mary is a,
Yeah.
So, I have questions about these people, and why have they been kicked out of over 1,030 civilizations? And why have they been kicked out of 109 countries? Over 1,030 times. This means they were kicked out and then let back in and then kicked out. And so Zionism is just one of the latest societies, which, and they have a lot of good points. I just want to give them credit where it's due. I appreciate that they're against the genocide that's happening in Palestine. We can all see that that's happening.
Right.
We can all see that these people are literally just creating a matrix grid using this spyware, which is called graphite, which, I learned a lot about the type of softwares that these people are using by looking into ICE. At one point I was very like, okay, ICE is, we do need to get rid of a lot of our illegal immigration. But then you look into what ICE is really doing, and they're actually just using the same software that they used in Israel to kill these innocent people, and by targeting them and labeling anybody who's a military-aged man as a terrorist. And so basically we talked to I talked to the rabbis, and I asked them that question. Why do you think you guys have been kicked out of 109 countries?
What was his answer?
He said, bro, my grandparents were in the Holocaust. That's what he said. That was his answer.
Yeah.
And they were all circling me. They were recording me. And you could tell that he was triggered because he started going back into that like victim mindset of like, whoa, now you're starting to make people hate us, And I'm like, no, people have this question because, there's a lot of people who say it's, don't get mad at the Jays, get mad at the Zionists. But it's like, okay, well, that's true. 85% of Jays are Zionists. But there's still a Jewish supremacy issue, and I still have questions about what's in your Talmud. Why does it say in Baba Kama that you can circumvent a goy, which you can lie to circumvent a goy, and that they're not allowed to talk about their Talmud? And so I told this to them. I said, well, why do people talk about this? Because until we hear your answer, this isn't going to be just dismantled, and it's not just going to go away by talking about the pizza cost. The baking competition, which, if that's what I call it.
Yeah.
They said that they baked more pizzas than I think is possible. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. He just can't hold back.
I can't hold back, man. Sorry, I can't
censor.
censor myself. And I think that's the problem.
But yesterday was just funny because we...
I can't wait for that interview to drop for real.
Yeah, because I asked him. I interviewed him myself, and they were just dancing around the questions. And I noticed that with him. I couldn't hear too well because I was just far away recording, and you were using the mic. But
that's how
was just great. Yeah,
that's how it turned into a 35-minute interview.
Because they kept giving you the runaround.
Is because I would ask a question, and he would just get so vague, and then I'd get specific, and then he'd get vague, and then I'd get specific, and he'd get vague.
He gives you the runaround.
And I'd be like, okay, but like answer my specific question, and he's just like, well, it's case by case, like we're the victims,
and then they asked for your number.
Yeah, they asked for my phone number. Then they came and took.
You were a good goy.
Yeah, because I was being a good goy. Which I have this pit in my stomach because I'm like, oh, great, now they're going to ban me on everything else.
Yeah. So what happened today? He reached out to you?
Yeah, he just reached out to me. And, he's like, please send me that interview that you did with us. I want to see how it came out,
Yeah. They want to make sure you're not making them look bad, but they already... It's crazy.
Still have questions about Jesus. Like, why do you guys think he's burning in feces? Never got an answer for that. But we'll see, And I wasn't trying to be mean. I wasn't trying to trigger them. I just wanted to hear an actual answer from them. And it kept dancing back to like, well, it's the Zionists. And I'm just like...
He told me that when I asked him that about Jesus, he told me that they have a like a deal, like a business deal with God. And they don't believe in Jesus and Muhammad and all these other prophets afterwards. That's it. Yeah. They stick with Moses, and that's it.
They just stick with Moses.
That's where they're at, basically. With
just kill Jesus and not take responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just do that. How about that, huh?
Basically, that's what they're saying.
Well, that's what Jesus was probably the biggest anti-Semite. That's why they don't like to talk to him, talk about him. Because what was he saying? He says, your father is of the devil, and you don't know our father, because you were born of a liar, and he's the father of lies. And, Jesus says in Revelation that, there's going to be people who say they are Jews, but they're actually of the synagogue of Satan. So I'm not even saying that these people are Jews, and I'm not talking about the rabbis we talked to. Mm-hmm. I appreciate how sweet they were and how much they were, giving credit where it's due, seeing something that's really, really dark and sinister and saying, hey, we're not going to stand for that. So respect to the rabbis.
Yeah.
Don't
We
ban me
definitely gotta-
anywhere else.
We definitely got to give them a little bit of respect
Yeah.
for standing against genocide.
Right,
you know?
right.
But yeah, Jesus was definitely a threat to them, though, because he was righteous, and that's not what they stood for, basically, at that.
And that's, I think, what we should be able to do is stand up to our religious authorities, seek the truth. The truth will set you free. I'm not trying to give despair to anybody. I'm just trying to give hope. And I think anytime that you're trying to seek for the truth, that you're doing something righteous.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's a dark truth, at the end of the day, it's like, I think we're all born good people who want to inspire. Things happen to us. We become traumatized. We become, and that's what we shouldn't become, is people who push despair.
Yeah.
Because in the end, we win.
Yeah.
God wins. So don't be
always
afraid.
wins. God always
Don't be
wins.
afraid to speak the truth.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
don't be
good
able
against
to
evil.
Don't be
Good
afraid to
against evil.
stand up for the truth, and
Right.
and that's why I have a deep-seated need to just say it out loud. That's, I think, everything that I stand on business about is when people are like, whoa, be careful. Don't talk about that. Anytime somebody does that, I'm like, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right now because I don't want us to be sitting around each other being like, oh, be careful. And so that's how I live my life. Anytime I'm in the sauna or after the gym and I'm just talking to people, when people are listening, it's that's what we're taught to do. Preach the truth. Don't be afraid of it. Let it out, you know? Don't be like, oh, I'm going to be careful because I don't want to come off as hateful. I'm not hateful. I love the truth. I love people. I don't like to see innocent people being hurt. And if speaking out about these things offends somebody, good. Be offended, because I'm offended with all the stuff that I've seen. That video that you showed me, man.
Yeah.
The way that they treat Palestinian prisoners. They're just kicking them on the floor like they're animals. And then you read what they talk about, how they talk about Goyim, saying that we are non-human beasts, that we're inferior. I'm not cool with that. And I think it's if we're going to be afraid to say what they said, none of this is my opinion, this is what they say, I think it's wrong. You're suppressing what God has given you. I have a soul. I've been given the ability to discern, so why not speak out about it? And
for us to have objective conversations that are fair and even, you have to kind of remove all taboos. You know, when I speak, I make sure. I mean, I stay polite. I always say, whatever you say, try and say it in the most polite way possible. I'm not trying to irritate or make anybody mad unnecessarily, but speak the truth in the most polite fashion. But you have to remove taboos to be able to speak objectively and find truth and produce good results.
Right. Yeah. And I think Israel is a genocidal, evil country, and the entire ethno-state that they're trying to create, I think, is everything that they told us that white people are doing in this country is exactly what they're trying to do.
That's one of their tactics. Blame somebody else for what they themselves are doing. You blame the Muslims, you blame the Christians, you blame the Arabs, you blame the whites, you blame the blacks, Hispanic, whoever. Blame everybody but yourselves. And if you're doing it, especially blame somebody else for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Division. That's what it
Exactly.
is. They divide
Diversion, everything.
That's exactly what
they use. Every tactic against us, and they're like masters at it.
Yeah.
Absolute masters. Look what they did to our Twin Towers. You know, look at what's Larry Silverstein. Why did he get terrorist insurance weeks before the tower fell? And then why afterwards did he sue the insurance companies to get, what was it, $4.5 billion? Double the price of the towers he sued them for, and was able to get all that money because, two towers fell, and what happened to Building 7? They pulled it. They literally have a video of him telling them, pull it. That's a demolition term saying, demolish this. It's a demolition term, and that's what they did. And
what happened to a couple of thousand, what do you call it? You know who was calling out that day?
Amazingly, they say, by their own numbers,
how many people was it?
They say they only lost 4 Jewish people died on September 11, which is amazing for a city.
But how many people called out? Do we know that number?
It was hundreds, because the buildings that were hit, a lot of them were Jewish employees.
Yep.
And then recently, former Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said that he was there and watched September 11th happen. And it's well, how many other Israeli politicians were there? How come we didn't know this before? And they were hiding the stuff on purpose. Like, dude, there's a lot more that we don't know, but all roads, all evidence points to Israel.
100%.
That's nuts.
Why did we see Israeli art students in the towers next to bomb fuses? Why did we see that? And then why did they happen to also be bomb experts? Is that a coincidence? How many coincidences do we need to see before we say it is what it is? You know, do we need the news to tell us? And in fact, the news was telling us. I believe that there were 60 Israeli operatives that were arrested in the month of September, the same time the towers fell. Like, what's up with that? You know, and that.
Yeah.
Why were they dancing? Why were they dancing in front of the towers and then go off to Israel and go on national public television telling them, saying, we were there to document the event? How'd you know about the event? You know, and then we send our Goyim off to fight in their wars in the Middle East. And then we see in Iraq that, like, the places that they raided were these areas with these, like, ancient artifacts and ancient Sumerian technology. And we just went and labeled all of them as terrorists, and we all fell for it. I think it was.
Yeah, we all fell for it.
We all fell
sure.
for it.
We all did.
You know, and all the
Brainwashed.
soldiers
We were all
fell
brainwashed.
for it too.
Sadly true.
And I think a huge part of why people have PTSD is because they realize that they did something because some politician told them that was the right thing to do, and they just accepted through the chain of command that this must be right. And they wanted to defend their country, and I respect that, and I support the troops. But I do believe that that's why a lot of them ended up with serious PTSD, realizing,
serious
like,
problems.
I went over and killed these people. What would I do if somebody came over to my country, opened my door with guns, and came to kill me? I would defend myself. And so it's like, just having any bit of human empathy, you realize that it's like, we are all human, and why were we fighting these people in the first place? Were they really a threat? Did they really bomb our towers? And if they didn't, why were we over there? Weapons of mass destruction didn't exist.
And as far as one group of people being coincidentally involved in a lot of different angles every time there's a major event, you know, there's 1.4 billion Chinese, but every time there's like an assassination or some big disaster or terrorist attack, there's not like a whole bunch of Chinese people that randomly happen to be there. But when it comes to that 0.2% of the world's population, they just happen to be the witnesses. They benefit from the motivations and everything like that. And like, oh, you know, these coincidences never happen with the Chinese.
No.
But it always happens with the 0.2%, huh?
Speaking of, like, George Zinn, this dude who happened to be at Charlie Kirk's assassination, and he comes out being like, it was me who did it, and then just creating this distraction so that people would have, like, one more person to look into, but it was like a total distraction. He was also a witness in 9/11. Like, what are the odds? And we could connect all these different events to these Israelis who happen to just be witnessing these events. Like what happened with the Bondi Beach shooter. You guys remember that one?
Of course, yeah.
Where it's like this guy, what was his name? Arlen Ostrovsky, I believe his name was. He was the chosen victim. He came out and his bald head was like bleeding and his
Fake
paint all
blood,
over his
all
face.
fake. Yeah.
Well, guess what? That guy also survived October 7th. What are the odds?
Yeah.
What? Crazy.
With the Charlie Kirk decoy, too, out of all of history's, like, assassination attempts and assassinations that, you know, fully went through, when has there ever been a decoy? I mean, really. So this guy, you know, as soon as a shot is fired, everyone's like, you know, in shock or running or just staring. But he had the presence of mind and some kind of motivation to jump up and take credit for an assassination that he did not do so the other guy can escape.
Right.
It's like, come on, man. And then, of course, he was witness to 9/11. He happens to be of a certain religious background, ethnicity, and it's like, oh, come on, man.
Right.
Beyond coincidences.
Right. And then he also, they found out that he allegedly was carrying CP, child corn. and he was caught with this on his phone. And so it's like, all right, what's up with these people? What's going on with this society? Why do they own all of our corn industry entirely? They own MindGeek. It's like this rabbi who owns it. Well, guess what? There's like 0% of Christians own any corn industry. You would have to take away the fact that you're a Christian. So it's like, you know, and then you look into like who started this back in the day when corn was just starting to be pushed on people, and it was always this one group of people. Weird, right? But they're chosen by God, so it's like we probably shouldn't question that.
Oh man, I got a good topic for you, right?
Yeah.
So here's a topic. Sadly, many children have died from this. Metzitza. You care to explain it?
Well, it's metzitza. It's a tradition, and I think that it's antiseptic to talk about it because it's just a normal thing that they do where they take a baby and when they circumcise it, they do an oral method where they drink the blood while suctioning the part of the child to apparently cleanse it with their mouth. Rabbis,
disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting.
But now we've seen that it's been causing like herpes outbreaks and HIV, and there's kids that have died about this. And we wouldn't know about this if we didn't have the hospital records showing us that these children were infected with STDs by these rabbis who perform this oral suction during a circumcision.
That doesn't even sound right, man. That's
dude, don't be
crazy.
antiseptic, dude. This is literally what this is normal for. It's a religion, dude. Stop.
The nastiest
Stop questioning it.
The nastiest part of it is if you type into a search engine Rabbi Metzitza and then hit the images button, they actually show you examples of it being done. And it's it'll make you puke.
Yeah.
Last night
it's a religion, so you guys got to stop being mean about it. Honestly,
okay.
Like,
look at Eric.
You know, that's really antiseptic, Eric.
Last night we were talking about autism.
Yeah, right.
And you had something very interesting to share with us.
Right. So, okay.
I'd like the viewers to.
Well, we'll start off with a crazy statistic.
With this,
we'll start off with a crazy statistic.
Yeah.
So 1 in 12.5 boys in California now have autism. That's
1
according
1 in 12.
1 in 12.5.
Wow.
And that's according to the health records. You could look this up. It's according to their own data, their own statistics.
That's a very high number.
That's really, really high. And I think back in the 70s, it was like 1 in 30,000. Mm-hmm. But if you question that, you know, Google will tell you, well, it's because our diagnosing have gotten better. It's because our diagnosing has gotten better, you know? Like, but the truth is, it's like, dude, why are we giving these people, like, it's either 72, it's probably gone up, 72 vaccines. We give a child a hepatitis B vaccine soon as they're out the womb, and we're told that that's like just the normal schedule for them to do. And the only way that you can contract hepatitis B is from sex or by sharing needles. Why are we giving children hepatitis B? And then you look into the actual ingredients of these hepatitis, all the vaccines pretty much, they all have aluminum. They have formaldehyde, you know, so what it's really doing is it's stimulating their immune response, and then they tell them, oh, that's a good thing. It's going to make them healthier. And we all intrinsically thought that it's like, oh, well, it just contains a small amount of this illness, and we're going to give that to this person so then they can overcome it. But it's like we have to take each vaccine case by case. Why are we putting this into our children? Like the polio vaccine. You look into the polio vaccine. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes.
Where basically when polio was given to the public, polio's statistics of like how many people were having it, it leveled out. It was pretty much like gone. The amount of people who had polio, by the time the polio vaccine came out, it was pretty much eradicated. And so they were using what was ADT. And so they were, with COVID, it was like, oh, we all got to wear our masks and we got to, use hand sanitizers. Well, back then they believed that in order to cleanse yourself so that you don't catch polio, you need to put ADT all over your child, all over your hands. You heard about this?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. And so they were putting ADT into all of the rivers, and they were just flooding everything with ADT. Well, it turns out that ADT causes the same type of paralysis and symptoms that polio has. So the solution that they had was causing people to show symptoms of polio, which I believe in the medical data was showing that polio went back up, and then vaccine came out and it eradicated it. But you really look into that and it's like, no, polio was already being eradicated. We have this thing called natural immunity where your body, once it's had something, it naturally cures itself of it. And I believe it's the same case with COVID-19, that they were, once you have natural immunity, you're good. But, we all need to do it or you had to lose your job, And guess what? Omicron's right around the corner. You better get your booster,
Yeah.
That Delta variant, it'll hit you, so you got to get that third booster, especially if you want your Krispy Kreme donuts,
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It's all a business.
Yeah.
It's all a business.
It is a business, and
major
Big
business.
Pharma is a very big business, and they're one of the top contributors to our congressman's campaigns for re-election. And so that creates a heck of a incentive structure for them to keep favoring Big Pharma and all these vaccines. We really do need an objective review of every single vaccine kids get to see if it's absolutely necessary, if it's outdated. No, that's 1,000%. That's something that we really need to do, because a lot of this stuff is put into practice just because of money and not because of objective analysis.
Absolutely. And you saw our health advisor from our previous administration happens to be a fat trans woman.
Dr. Admiral...
Obese at that.
Dr. Admiral Rachel Levine. And what religion were they?
I think they were chosen.
Levine.
Yeah. Happened to be chosen.
That person was more concerned about putting transgendered agendas into our school system than our actual health, and that person is not your person that you would typically look to for health advice anyway. I mean, oh my God, that Dr. Admiral Rachel Levine, and you were never allowed to question this person, or else you were called every ism in the book, anti-Semitism,
fatphobic.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, all the isms.
Every ism.
Yeah.
That's how you control society, through isms. Through labels, because labels affect perception, and they're ingrained in our taboo system.
Yeah, protected groups. That's the thing. How perfect. Put a obese trans woman as this health advisor. So anything that you say against it, you're a bigot.
And a lot of people on the either whether it be homosexuality or trans, most people don't care. They just care once it starts being pushed into schools, especially at extremely young ages. Because for most countries and most religions and stuff, like, you don't even teach kids heterosexual sex, never mind homosexual sex.
Exactly.
Like, why are you teaching that to kids, man?
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, if you want to think that you're a woman, like, as an adult, like, go for it. You're not. But, why are we doing this, like, drag queen story hour thing? Like, it was almost, like, so stupid that it was like, all right, this tolerance thing, this virtue signaling thing has gone too far. When you start, like, pandering to this, like, small sect of people who just have mental illnesses, then you're making the illness worse. It's like telling a fat person that, like, oh yeah, keep eating those donuts. You're perfect how you are. And it's actually healthy to be fat. And it's like, that's not true. Now you're actually perpetuating their illness and you're making it even worse. So it's like, sometimes you have to trigger people in order to get them to become better. And I think that's the same thing with, like, we shouldn't give a kid who, when I was a kid, I thought I was a cowboy. You know what I mean? So if a kid happens to think he's a girl because the parents were like, oh, well, guess what? Some boys can be girls and some girls can be boys. And the kid's like, yeah, I do feel different. because they're on like every vaccine and they're like eating goy slop all day, and their parents are just giving them like toaster strudels and Pop-Tarts,
Pantry food.
and corn, soy, and wheat, and all these preservatives that have pesticides in them and glyphosate, and they're like, they don't know who they are because they're going through these transformations, and they tell their parents like, oh, I don't feel good, and their parents happen to be like trans rights supporters. Then the parents might also perpetuate that by telling them, okay, well, let's get you on puberty blockers. And that's a permanent decision. And I've seen it a lot, that like people who are willing to give their kids puberty blockers are not willing to give, like, you can take puberty blockers, but you can't get a tattoo until you're 18. It's like, what's more, I mean, it's just like, you can actually remove a tattoo.
Yeah.
But this magical, beautiful process that happens when you're becoming of age and you're becoming a man or you're becoming a woman, this puberty process is of God. It's this beautiful process that your hormones are going through all these different stages. You become the person you're ultimately going to become. Right. And to go against that is literally, what I believe, is going against God. God has a plan 100%. For your life. And to try and stop that and tell somebody like, oh, God made you the wrong gender, is just so antithetical to like God's beautiful creation.
I agree.
You know?
And for kids, like especially for females, the treatments that they give them sterilize them, because in the future they're not able to have children anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's not cool. Let them make the decision once they're grown older, and they can make the decision on themselves. But like between 14, 16, there's a lot of like around 16 years old, they're tricked into this stuff, and it's just like, dude, that's irreversible damage you've just done to these youths.
Right. Yeah, actually, I did a YouTube video probably like 5 years ago. This is kind of when I was getting into this, and I went around to all the different people in my college, and I asked them like, hi, excuse me, you know, would you be willing to give puberty blockers to a minor?
Really? You did that?
Yeah, I did. And I went up to like 12 different people and I asked them, and like more than half of them said, yeah, I think it's good. You know?
No way.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, well, what age? And like some people were like, 13, 12.
Wow.
I'm like, you know, just
That's
so that
so
they
sad,
never have
man.
to grow up being the wrong gender. It's like,
So sad.
what?
What our society's become.
Yeah. So, I mean, I saw that because I went to college during the Obama administration. And at that time, there was just this big push for gay rights and, you know, just all these different like agendas that it's like, be you, love is love. And like, you know, which... love is love. It's a word. You know, what does that even mean? But it's like, you know, they push this virtue signaling on you so that you have all of this tolerance. So you never stand up and say, hang on, there is right and wrong. And we don't live in this place that's just like morals are just this wishy-washy thing and there is no right and wrong. Like, and, you know, it took me years until I realized, I was like, you know what? Like, I do need to speak up for the truth, and saying things out loud that I feel are actually of God, and I'm not hateful in any way. And what I'm saying is not extreme. If anything, the most extreme thing is to tell us that we should just tolerate mental illness, tolerate this cabal of people who are spraying our skies with aluminum and barium and spraying our corn, soy, and wheat with pesticides, and it's causing. That's going back. I mean, this all started just off of the autism thing.
Yeah,
is like we're being fed goy slop in our air, in our food, in our water, and you look into our tap water. What is our tap water? It's toilet to tap. Why? Well, you know, they could have a filtration system that would get rid of some of these, like birth control. When you take birth control and you use the bathroom, well, we don't have a filtration system that can really get that out of our water. So when you're drinking tap water, you're having antibiotics, birth control pills. All these things are filtered through our water systems that are not built to get rid of this. And then we drink this, and that's causing us to have these weird transformations with our bodies where, and you could look at it through the data right now. It's like kids nowadays are not going through a full puberty. And so it's like what's up with that agenda? Why are people not going through a full puberty? And now we're allowing them a choice. Hey, here we'll block it even more, and we're going to figure out a way that's going to be good. And people's testosterone levels have plummeted. Like I think it was like back in the 70s. Don't quote me on this, but I believe it was like if you were under 600, you had a testosterone issue. Well, because the average of people's testosterone has gone so much lower that now if you have above a 300, they don't say that you have a problem anymore with your testosterone. But it's like nowadays kids have the same testosterone levels as their grandparents. Like a 70-year-old has the same testosterone levels as somebody who's like 18 years old right now. So there's a serious issue, and it's not just what we're being fed mentally, but it's what we're being fed physically, and there's a serious issue. And I believe that for sure. Other countries, they don't have the same autism issues, and that's one thing is like our dairy industry. I could go into this for a whole hour.
Yeah.
I'm not going to chew your ear off this, but it's like raw milk. They've done studies on this.
Yeah,
the Mayo Clinic was actually founded off of raw dairy. That they would use sterile raw milk, and they would give this to people, and it was curing them of many different illnesses. And there's studies to back this up, that when you give a child raw milk, that it lowers their respiratory infections for the rest of their life, lowers their eczema, lowers all of these issues that vaccines cause. And then, nowadays, the parents are now having issues breastfeeding because of all this crap we're putting in our bodies. Mm-hmm. So what's the solution? Give them formula. What's in formula? A bunch of seed oils, which are high in omega-6s, which are inflammatory, and corn syrup solids. Corn syrup, what do we do to our corn? We give it pesticides. Mm-hmm. So now our children are not getting God's milk from a human body that can't be recreated, and we're giving them formula, and now kids are growing up just in such an artificial world. And, people are starting to figure this out. They're like, okay, well, now maybe we need to start eating organic and start eating healthier and fixing our gut health. And that movement, I'm all for. And they gave us that movement with RFK Jr., had an incredible book. I don't know if you guys read it. It's The Real Anthony Fauci. And he talks about how Anthony Fauci was one of the big purveyors of COVID-19 and how they were doing these studies before. Well, he's the one who pushed AZT back in the day for HIV, when HIV was a big issue, and they were saying HIV is going to turn into AIDS unless you get this AZT product. Well, AZT was actually just a poison, and it was literally making people's faces melt off.
Wow. And
AZT ended up becoming it was a huge crisis, and people were having strikes in front of the White House over them pushing this AZT. It was a huge issue. And Anthony Fauci is the same one who was pushing us to all get our mRNA COVID vaccines, and nobody batted an eye. So RFK Jr. wrote a whole book on this about how they had these simulations of what would happen in an emergency pandemic, and all of these major corporations were all prepared for it before it actually happened. And then it happened, and who did it hit? All of the small businesses, while companies like Target, Walmart, all of these corporations that are, highly funded by BlackRock and Vanguard, these huge major investors who all follow what's called the Economic Social Governance Score. Have you guys heard of this a little bit? No,
I haven't heard of it.
So every company has what's called an Economic Social Governance Score. This is how well they follow the program. Are they pro-trans? Do they care about climate change?
And this is in America?
This is in America, yeah.
Never heard of it.
And who regulates this? Is the government regulates this?
The government, BlackRock, Vanguard,
BlackRock, I know they
financial investors, they will basically say, okay, well, how much are we willing to fund these people? And each company has an ESG score. And based on how high their score is how good they're doing and how willing these large investors are to investing in them. And that score is eventually going to be put on us. And how well are we going to comply? And I'm sure if they gave me a score, it would be pretty bad. Just kidding. I totally follow all this, so give me a high score. Yeah. But they're bringing this social credit score to America. And I think one of the Trojan horses is ICE. I really do. And I think because ICE is now using the same software, this spyware called Graphite that they used out in Gaza to decimate the people there, and they used a killing machine. It was called the Hasbora, which means the gospel in Hebrew. And this was used to kill over 50% of the people who died in Palestine by using AI, which takes out human conscience out of the equation. So yes, we did see a lot of Israelis, doing some very dark things to these innocent Palestinians.
Yeah.
But there was also these like drones that were just deciding like, all right, well, the kill machine score says we should just kill this guy. And so those weren't even decided by humans. It was decided by AI. And how they did it is they mapped out what's called a digital twin technology. So they took the entire area of Gaza and created an entire like surveillance grid of it by mapping out all of the buildings, all of the phones, every car, anything that had any technology. And they created a recreation of that map. And then they used these tools to decide where are the people, who should be killed, how they're going to kill them. And now ICE is using that same tool, Graphite, but they rebranded it as Immigration OS. And so they're going to be using that to map out all of our cities. And so they're going to tell you, hey, we're going after illegal immigrants. But the truth is they're going after anybody that they consider a domestic terrorist.
Wow.
And that means anybody who's antiseptic or who doesn't comply with the economic social governance. And so this is the compliance mechanism that they use for control. And COVID was just a test. Like, are you going to get your vaccine? Are you going to follow the rules? Do you believe in climate change? Do you believe that the seas are rising? Which they're not. Score just dropped 100 right there.
Yeah. Jake has a lot to say, and Eric has very little to say today. Eric didn't say much today.
I don't want to interrupt.
So
But
you know what it is? Jake has so much to say. You know what I mean? He's filled with a lot of good knowledge that a lot of people would should hear.
Thank you.
And honestly, man, it was great to have you here. I know we're running a little on time right now with the podcast. We're late because of what do you call it? But we're gonna have to we're going to have to end it right now, buddy.
It was absolutely great having you up here, man. We had a whole bunch of fun off the podcast and everything, too, just hanging out the past few days and everything. So really happy you showed up for Palestine Day in Patterson, New Jersey. And it was had a heck of a lot of fun, man.
This is
well, free Palestine and free America from the Zionist occupied government that we're under.
Absolutely.
And great having you guys. I mean, great being here with you guys. Thank you for having me. New York's been awesome. Yeah, you've been a great host. Thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Stay tuned for more episodes to come, and hopefully Jake will come back and give us some more education here. It was definitely great. Thank you.